about what they preached and what they talked to the American people about, more so than what they're doing. The kind of messages that they were disseminating was incredibly uncomfortable to listen to and to hear. And I thought that it wasn't emblematic of what most Americans are thinking about. They're trying to pay their mortgages, rent, buy food and groceries, pay gas, and deal with the prices, the cost of living. And they want safety in the streets. That's primarily what most American citizens are about, trying to live in peace and harmony. I'm not happy with the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party is presently constructed. It would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them and I would garner their support, because I don't like the way they've gone about doing a lot of things for a very, very long period of time.
This is Stephen A. Smith calmly dismantling Jake Tapper as he explains why he believes the left has gone woke and why Democrats must rethink their strategy if they want to remain competitive, arguing that the party has completely lost its footing and could end up handing the next presidential election to Republicans on a silver platter. So, as always, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it.
With the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party is presently constructed. It would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them and I would garner their support, because I don't like the way they've gone about doing a lot of things for a very, very long period of time. And I think that I don't view Donald Trump as winning the election. I view the Democrats as losing the election, as absolutely positively blowing it with some of their actions. And that's why I think that, again, if somebody was to associate me with that, the party is presently constructed where it leads so extremely left, or at least it spent the vast majority of time doing that. Oh, that is not something that I would vibe with at all.
Stephen A. Smith makes it clear that his frustration isn't with liberalism itself, but with what the Democratic Party has allowed its brand to become, arguing that it has drifted into performative wokeness to the point that, despite holding liberal views, he no longer wants to be publicly associated with it, viewing this not as principled progressivism, but as ideological excess that alienates everyday voters, drowns out common sense, and reflects a party that has lost both its moral and strategic compass, requiring a serious internal reckoning and major course correction to regain credibility. An assessment he's far from alone in, as even Gavin Newsom recently echoed similar concerns by admitting the Democratic brand has become toxic and deeply unattractive to large segments of the electorate, signaling not mere partisan noise, but a genuine identity crisis within the party.
Some of the things that Democrats have been doing that have turned you off and that make you say the party needs to be purged. Who needs to be purged from it, first of all? Do you have any names?
Well, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to do that to a lot of people, but we know who the extreme left is. We know how they go about operating. We know what we lean towards when it came to open borders. We know that the spending was excessive, even though it's excessive on the Republican side as well. I think a $37 trillion budget, when Republicans try to act like it's just the Democrats, that's not true. But the Democrats certainly shouldn't be absolved from blame in that regard. Certainly with identity politics, woke culture, cancel culture, I thought that was something that ravaged our nation psychologically, because you had people literally scared they were going to lose their jobs if they pronounced the wrong pronoun, for crying out loud. It got that bad.
Today, leftists are claiming that President Trump is attacking free speech simply because he chose to sue certain media organizations for allegedly spreading falsehoods about him. But that argument ignores recent history, when under President Biden and Kamala Harris, individuals were routinely criticized, deplatformed, or removed from platforms for expressing views outside the mainstream narrative, a double standard Stephen A. Smith is calling out, since free speech does not mean freedom from consequences for publishing misinformation, especially when those consequences come through legal channels rather than government force. And the irony is amplified by public allegations and congressional debates suggesting the Biden administration communicated with Facebook and other tech companies about content moderation decisions, making it hard to miss that many of the same voices who stayed silent then now portray themselves as free speech absolutists, while accusing Trump of doing what they once excused or ignored entirely.
is that Donald Trump is in office today, because so much stuff, a lot is focused on the individual as opposed to actual policies itself. I'm talking about what they preached and what they talked to the American people about, more so than what they're doing. The kind of messages that they were disseminating was incredibly uncomfortable to listen to and to hear. And I thought that it wasn't emblematic of what most Americans are thinking about. They're trying to pay their mortgages, rent, buy food and groceries, pay gas, and deal with the prices, the cost of living. And they want safety in the streets. That's primarily what most American citizens are about, trying to live in peace and harmony. And that's not something that I think either side has promoted along the way.
Stephen A. Smith also underscored a crucial point. The message Democrats chose simply didn't resonate with everyday Americans, as the party shifted its focus away from broad, shared concerns and toward individual identities and niche causes on the political fringes, losing sight of the kitchen table issues that actually shape people's lives, like rising gas prices, expensive groceries, economic instability, and personal safety. While voters worried about those realities, Democrats appeared more focused on pandering to the far left and elevating issues most Americans don't view as priorities, a disconnect that proved costly because elections aren't won through ideological signaling or online applause, but by addressing what keeps families up at night, leading Stephen A. to argue that the party confused moral posturing with effective leadership and delivered a message that felt out of touch and tone-deaf, prompting voters who felt ignored not just to tune out, but to vote against them.
Last month said that there are clearly other people more qualified to be president than you. So what do you say to somebody out there who's watching, who thinks you have no political experience, no foreign policy experience? You're a gifted TV sports commentator without question, but are you really prepared to be president of the United States? How would you answer that?
I would say they're absolutely right. I'm not prepared. I'm not qualified. I have no political history whatsoever. I've never been interested in politics a day in my life. How did I come to this conclusion where I've left the door open? I'll tell you how. Elected officials have come up to me. Folks in the streets of America come up to me every single day. Not only that, my own pastor, A.R. Bernard from Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York, said to me, show respect to people who love and support you by leaving the door open, because you never know what God has planned for you or for us.
Now people are openly floating Stephen A. Smith's name as a potential presidential candidate. And while it may sound unconventional on paper, given that he's never held political office and would naturally face questions about experience and readiness, in today's political climate, sincerity and clarity often matter more than resumes, as Stephen A. speaks plainly without the scripted jargon that dominates modern politics, which is exactly why the idea resonates with some Americans. Since he comes across as grounded, unapologetically moderate, and unafraid to call out nonsense even when it comes from his own side, appearing more in touch with everyday concerns than many career politicians who focus on ideological fantasies. And whether or not he would ever run, the fact that people are seriously entertaining the idea says a great deal about how little faith remains in the political establishment.
Realize right now, and I'm saying this facetiously because I know that you do, Jake, doing what you do every single day. Do you realize that if you are an elected official, your real work is with the campaign? Once you get into office, literally you can get away. I'm talking about the nation's capital specifically, not state and local politics, just the nation's capital. You realize that you can literally go on Capitol Hill and all your job is to do is to disagree with the other side. You don't even have to do anything else. Whatever the other side feels, you feel the opposite. That's not work. That's not going across the aisle. That's not maneuvering your way through the terrain, through the political terrain, and really negotiating on behalf of your constituency and the American people. All we're doing is engaging in acrimony and hate.
Stephen A. Smith is absolutely right that modern politics has become deeply toxic, with people retreating into rigid ideological silos and refusing to engage with anyone who thinks differently, replacing debate with shouting matches and dialogue with labels, leaving the country feeling split straight down the middle and treating compromise as a dirty word on nearly every major issue. A level of division that is not just unhealthy, but dangerous, because when honest cross-political conversations disappear, progress stalls, resentment grows, and policymaking shifts from finding solutions to scoring points against the other side, resulting in paralysis, mistrust, and a widespread sense that the system no longer works for ordinary people. While this extreme polarization corrodes national development by blocking cooperation on issues that affect everyone, regardless of party, ensuring that until Americans relearn how to disagree without demonizing one another, the nation will remain stuck, angry, divided, and unable to move forward in any meaningful way.
Citizens are suffering. So when I look at it from that standpoint, and I think the kind of impact that I could have as a centrist, as a moderate, as somebody who believes in being sensical and engaging in common sense, unfortunately, I believe that if I did take this very, very seriously and I moved forward and I decided that I wanted to be a politician, do I believe I could win? You're damn right. But it's by default. It's not because I'm the most qualified candidate in the world. It's because of the state of our politics in the nation's capital, the politicians that we're looking at, and the fact that we don't believe for 1 second that they are serving the interests of the American people, nor are they interested in it.
Stephen A. Smith argues that one of the biggest problems in modern politics is that too many elected officials are focused on themselves rather than the country they're meant to serve, with national interests taking a backseat to personal ambition and party survival as politicians prioritize short-term wins and headline-friendly moves to get through the next election cycle instead of governing with long-term vision, filtering every decision through polling data, donor pressure, and social media reactions rather than what actually benefits citizens, a mindset that fuels empty promises, fear-mongering, and constant division because outrage is easier to sell than solutions, ultimately eroding honesty and accountability, discouraging leaders from taking hard but necessary positions, and leaving a political class that feels deeply disconnected from everyday Americans who want stability, opportunity, and competent leadership, not endless campaigning disguised as governance.
And they know one thing: I would be interested in serving the American people and doing what's in the best interest of this country. That means you, that means me, that means the black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, everybody. Because if all of us are rife with chaos, all that's going to lead to is America's destruction. And why would we want to be a part of that? So again, I'm not qualified. There are plenty of people that are qualified, more qualified to be at practically everybody. But are you going to win? And are you going to be committed to doing what's in the best interest of America? I know I'm that kind of person. That much I will say for myself. I'm not interested in division. I'm interested in galvanizing. That's what I'm about. That's what I try to be about. And sometimes you do that by calling it like you see it. And that's certainly something that I have proven I would do. I'd call it like I see it. People would know that.
That's exactly what more Americans should be doing, calling out what's wrong when we see it, regardless of which side of the aisle it comes from. Because accountability shouldn't be partisan. And if we only criticize the other side while excusing bad behavior from our own, we become part of the problem. As putting America first means placing principles above party labels and truth above tribal loyalty, recognizing that the country is bigger than any political movement, personality, or election cycle. And while we don't have to agree on everything to move forward, we do have to agree that the nation's well-being comes before partisan victories, since real progress comes from dialogue, compromise, and a shared commitment to the future. And despite our differences in ideology, background, or belief, we all have the same stake in this country's success. So if Americans can rediscover that sense of common purpose, we can begin to heal divisions, restore trust, and work toward a future that benefits everyone, not just the loudest political factions.